Welcome everyone to the Dev Device podcast. This is Dano Falk, and today I have a special guest with me. Her name is Kitty Lai. We met a few months ago, I think, somewhere on the interwebs, and I was very impressed with your personality, with what you're doing, with all your branding things, and I thought, you would be a perfect guest for my podcast. Welcome, Kitty Lai.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, Dano, and I'm so excited to be here and share my story.
So am I. So am I. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be an amazing one. But first of all, let us know what is happening in your life, in your business life today.
Right, so at the moment, I run two businesses actually at the moment. So I have my branding and design service. So I help a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of Amazon sellers, e-commerce sellers, and retail businesses with their packaging, design, and graphics. I also run a sustainable fashion business as well. So I'm a co-founder of another business. So I run that as well with my co-founder. And we sell sustainable fashion for men and women. They are designed to have longevity to them. So they're not throwaway fashion. It's not fast fashion, but I run that as well. But it's purely online. We launched that literally during lockdown, which was actually an absolute nightmare trying to get factories and shipping and things done during the lockdown period. But we got there, and we kind of relaunched in 2022, actually beginning of last year. So it's how fast the year just goes. But we're trading well, and we give back to the planet as well, and everything we do is sourced sustainably, and we're doing everything we can. But my main business is the branding side of things. So I work with a lot of clients that want packaging and design, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I can imagine, and that sounds really exciting, especially your branding part, and then your packaging part, your fashion thing. What is the name of your fashion brand?
It's called Kit London.
All right, okay, yeah, we shall include that one in the description for sure. Yeah, that should be part of the links that we shall share. And okay, I think there was a bit of a
glitch.
I will just get this out. Yeah, so there was a bit of a glitch here. So let us go back to how this all started. So what I like to do here on this podcast is take the journey of young Kitty, 10-year-old Kitty, teenage Kitty, what was going on in her life, and how she became the woman, the amazing woman she is today, I should say. So what I mean, if you go back like into your teenage time, into your what was your life like?
Well, I grew up in England. I was born and raised in England, and with a traditional Chinese family as well. So most people would want you to be a doctor, lawyer, accountant in Chinese families. But, my parents were very sort of westernized, and they actually let me do whatever I wanted to. If I was talented at it, they would let me do what I wanted. And I actually I wanted to be a choreographer, a dance choreographer, funny enough. So it's like a huge shift. And what happened was I did dance and I loved it, and I loved being on the stage and performed on the stage a lot with the schools and things. But my dad said I wasn't good enough. I wanted to be in a West End musical. I wanted to dance and sing, on Broadway. My dad said I wasn't good enough. And he said, you're not going to make money. You won't be able to do that. So I didn't have the belief there. And I didn't believe in myself either. So it thought, okay, what do I do? Anyway, I was still very
in
good
hindsight, what do you think? Was he right, or was he just kind of spoiling the show?
He was kind of spoiling the show, actually, but I carried it on as a hobby. I've always carried it on, even when I worked in London. I did perform actually in in the West End Theatre, doing performing arts for adults and stuff. But just as a hobby and things. So I have met some of that, but that's a completely different journey. But where I started with my branding and packaging was when I first went out to work. So my mum said, well, you're 16 now. You need to go get some pocket money on summer jobs and stuff. And she introduced me to this packaging factory where she was doing part-time work. So me and my sister went to this packaging factory, and we did a lot of packaging for Estee Lauder, Clinique, and Aramis. So luxury branding and luxury packaging. And I would either put stickers on the packaging, you make the boxes up, or you put the brushes in every single palette. And it's a conveyor belt. It literally goes, and I was getting travel sickness like every day, and it's like, oh, and you do that for 3 hours. You'll just be putting a brush in the box. You have to meet the targets at the end of the line, and you know, someone would be putting the box out, and then the next person will get the brush in, next one putting the makeup in, and it was crazy. But I saw that process from the very beginning of a product, of how to create a product and how it actually was made up, and to the end. And that I started to love packaging, and I would like collect perfume boxes, carry bags and stuff, that really nice luxury ones. And I have lots of them in the cupboard, and I just didn't want to throw them away. I love the material, the finishes. And that's how I gradually grew into the graphic design side. I did art at school, I did A-levels. And eventually I wanted to go to university and study graphic design. And that's what I did. I did a graphic design. I created a whole major project, or 4 projects in one, actually. I designed fashion branding for 4 different fashion designers at the same university, at a different branch. I got a photographer who was my housemate. He took the photography for me. I designed every logo for every fashion the designer, made their packaging, and I had it as a major project on my show. And with that, I got 96% in my major project for my degree. And I pleasantly surprised myself, but I enjoyed it. I think it was just the moment and enjoying it so much. I put all my passion and heart into it, and I'd never thought I'd get the highest score in the whole year. And I was like, oh, that was really good. So, and then from that, I wanted to work in London, and that's where all the graphic design jobs were. I had already had the opportunity to do work experience in London agencies when I was studying. So I would go back summers or Easters, and I just wanted to work. I just wanted to get straight into the business at 19. And, I graduated when I was 23, and went traveling for a couple of months, and then came back and landed my first job in London. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was a very small firm, and I was learning everything from scratch. And that's what I really sort of embrace, is the learning and developing of being a designer. I didn't know anything, and I was keen to learn and do everything I could to succeed. And then the opportunity came along for a role at Ted Baker. So this is going back to 1999. I don't know.
Role? What kind of role?
It was a junior graphic designer for Ted Baker, who is a fashion global retailer now. But back then they were still fairly small.
Really?
Yeah, we're talking.
Today they're like the Walmart in the UK, right?
They're not a Walmart, but they obviously are just fashion, men's and women's fashion. They started off as a men's shirt specialist, and they've grown it from branded jewelry, kids, sunglasses. And I got to see that over the transition. I was there for 10 years. So I went from a junior designer all the way and worked myself to actually managing a team of 10 designers for the business, and open stores with the teams globally. So, there's doing all the marketing graphics, the point of sale, the packaging, the labeling, the brand guidelines. I did everything for every department that had the name Ted Baker on it, and anything anything with a label or a zip pull or anything with the name Ted Baker, I would pass through me. I would have to sign it off. And if it wasn't 100% right, no, you have to go back to the supply. Get it right. And I was literally a brand guardian. My team of graphic design, we were brand guardians for Ted Baker. So that's that's where I started to really understand branding from an in-house perspective. I've worked agency side, where you work for brands, but you don't get to see the insides of it. So understanding the shipping departments, where the labels came from, the wholesale department, the merchandise team, accounts, and all the other things. Marketing as well was the area that I sat within. But I learned a hell of a lot and passed a lot onto my team as well. My knowledge is, I just loved working with people as well, and making sure that we maintain the creativity that the business required. So I was there until I was made redundant in 2008. So the recession happened and everyone was getting let go. And for me, actually, I wasn't upset, because I actually was thinking I needed a change. After 10 years, doing the same thing, spring, summer, autumn, winter, spring, summer, autumn, you're doing the same thing. I just needed something new. So redundancy wasn't a bad thing for me. It was a good thing. So I embraced that. And then I was freelancing a lot, actually, for TK Maxx. And then I was freelancing for Bowden for a bit. And then this new opportunity came along for Kath Kidston. So Kath Kidston is another British brand. It was vintage, retro kind of, that's sort of a very female-oriented brand, polka dots, florals. You'll see it all around. And again, it felt like how Ted Baker were 10 years prior when I joined. So I was growing a team again. They were looking specifically for a labeling and packaging designer to work closely with Cath, the owner of the business. So that way I managed to grow a team within there, a small team of 4, but that was enough. But again, my first day was going into the warehouse and looking at the branding and the packaging. It was not consistent, and that was like, oh no, I had to undo everything. And I said, look, we have to get it consistent. And Cath agreed. And so I rebranded everything for the whole business. So what you see on the streets and stores, and for the last, I don't know how long it was, for the last 10 years is all my doing. You see the shop fronts, open stores, and it's great to see people carrying some of your work, even in Ted Baker stores. I see people with my bags or designs and stuff, and I think, I did that. And you would not know that I would be standing next to you. I designed or rebranded the business.
No, I wouldn't.
No, you would, but I kept very quiet about that. I never used to tell people where I worked. That's the thing. That's the crazy thing, where the turn came along as well. So I was 6 years at Kath Kidston. I had a child in between that time as well, in 2013. Then I didn't want to do the same thing again. I kind of lost the love for design. I didn't know what to do. A lot of people get into a point in their lives doing something for 16, 17, 18 years in your life, and you think, I don't know if I like it or want to do that. I want to try something new. And for me, it was, okay, I was made redundant because I didn't want to manage a team anymore. And again, that was a good thing. And that forced me into what I'm doing now. It molded me into the Kitty Lai you see today, because the Kitty Lai back then was actually quite shy. I hated public. I hated public.
Hard to imagine, huh?
It's hard, even though actually I like performing on a stage. That was different. It was almost like a mask. I could wear this mask and be on stage and be someone else. And when I was working for those corporate companies, it was like, there's the director, and I thought, oh no, and I didn't feel like I was on the same level as everybody else. I don't know whether the whole thing from childhood, I wasn't good enough with my dad. I was always having to prove myself. And and the turn came about was when my brother-in-law went on a course to learn about FBA on Amazon, how to sell on Amazon.
Now the magical FBA comes in.
This is where it happens, and this is where I got my spark back, because I've never wanted to become my own business owner. The sheer thought of it, just thought, oh my god, I can't do it. Business owner, you've got to do this, you do that, and having that. It never crossed my mind. And going on the FBA course, this mastermind, actually, I went on for a whole weekend. It taught me how to create a business and create a company and how to set it up. And I thought, it's actually not that hard. And I kind of know brand, and I've worked in-house for brands, and it wasn't so scary for me, and I loved it. And so I created my first products. I launched in the US and UK. I wanted to do it within 2 months. I was quite passionate about getting this done, and then Chinese New Year hits, and you can't, that puts on another month onto your, wanting to launch early. And I did that. And because I was giving so much back when I joined the mastermind, they made me a mentor in this on this call.
Holy cow! Like wherever you go, boom, you just rise all the way to the top. Isn't that magical? I mean, come on. I mean, not so many people get the boss of all these companies you entered. You suddenly there must be something about you that people really appreciate, and they want you to be the leader, right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm just being me. I'm honest, and I tell you how things are, and I'm just being me, and that's all I've ever been. I know my weaknesses, I know my strengths, and I'm hungry. and I want to succeed. For me, I haven't succeeded yet. I'm not there yet. That's the thing. For me, I want to be better. And, I went on this course, I was made a mentor. So I started mentoring people about branding and packaging. And because I knew everything, I know substrates, materials, the finishes, and, shipping times, and all the whole process was, very familiar to me. And from that, I was mentor for 3 years, and I wanted to sort of continue with my design business because I kind of lost the love, and then I've come back to it because of this new drive I had in me, and it was learning. And the FBA master course just taught me that I wasn't learning, and because of that, I really loved it. That was what I was lacking. That was where I was feeling, I don't know if I want to do design. And it was because I wasn't learning or developing. And now, creating my own business and having my own businesses, it just fuels that fire, and I just want to sort of do it. But yeah, so I went back to design. I got a couple of coaches actually, and got some coaching. I want to do this, I don't want to do that, and they just told me this is what you need to do. And and I knew I was never confident in public speaking, being on camera for one thing. So I set myself a challenge. I said, I want to speak on a stage. And there's this guy I met in Miami. I went on holiday with my girlfriends. I ditched them and went on an Amazon sellers meetup in Miami. It was my friend's birthday in Miami. We went, and because I only just started the Amazon business.
That's not a very girlish thing to do.
Yeah, it's like Saturday night, they're out, and I'm like, I'm going to an Amazon meetup in Miami. I don't know anybody, but I just want to meet people and network. Mm-hmm. So went along, met Carlos Alvarez, who runs the Wizard of Ecom, and he was running a online sellers cruise in the January. And I didn't know that at the time when I met him, but a couple of months later I was following him, and I said, oh, this looks interesting. And I told my coach, I really want to speak. He's looking for speakers on this. I've never done a public speaking thing, and I don't know if I can do it, but I really want to. I want to show the world that I can talk about branding and packaging, because no one's talking about it. No one knows the things that I've got in here. And so I reached out to Carlos and I said, do you remember me? This quirky British Chinese girl that came to your meetup. You probably, and he remembered. Then I told him my story, like I'm telling you now. And he said, yeah, I'd love to have you on the cruise. And I went there not knowing anybody on the cruise. I went alone. I said, Carlos, I want to be first up. I want to get it out of the way and done. And I loved it. And from the coaching, I had another coach to teach me how to.
So you did get to speak on that cruise?
I did.
What happened?
It happened.
How did it go?
It went really well. They loved it, and a lot of things. I gave a lot of value for the cruise, and I've been on the last two as well. I've been back repeat.
That's a regular thing now. So you speak on the cruise as well.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. I speak at events with people that want me to speak about packaging and branding. But yeah, that was my thing about the challenge. I set it for myself. I knew it was going to be really daunting, and most people hate public speaking, and that was my challenge. And I set it for myself. I knew it was going to be scary, but you've got to do it. You've got to jump in. And after that, it's not so bad. Yeah, just like the thing in my head, the mindset of being a business owner, having to set up a business. That was the same. That was the step I had, the hurdle I went across as well. And yeah, so I continue with my design business because people were still asking me for work. I know somebody who wants work. Okay. Someone else wants packaging. Okay. And so I still was getting work. So I thought I better set up a company and do it myself properly. And that's what I've been doing. And that's where I am now. And subsequently, my business partner, co-founder of Kit London, I used to work with him at Ted Baker. So he was one of the co-founders of Ted Baker, and we've already always kept in contact. And he knew people that need work and stuff like that. And then he really wanted to set up his own business, a t-shirt business. And I said, oh, I want to get involved, I really I know the marketing, the branding, that side of things. So, we got together. Literally lockdown happened, and the rest is history. We just have to roll with the punches, the last 2 years, and that's where I am.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. That was, I still have to I think I have to watch this podcast again to process all this information, because this is a lot. So you somehow managed to always get on top of whichever business you entered. You were a public speaker, you created your first company during the lockdown, and Me Brand is the company that you're running until today.
Yes.
Helping others with their branding and packaging and a few other things as well, right? So it's not just, it's mainly branding and packaging, right?
It's mainly branding, packaging, and design. But I work with on the personal branding side of things. So to brand somebody. Mm-hmm. So, having been through it myself, wanting to brand myself, I help people with that as well. So it's really important that people do brand themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very challenged to pick your brain a bit right now, because branding is such an important thing, especially in e-commerce. So if you had to kind of summarize it, what do you think makes a great brand? What are the essential ingredients for a good brand?
So to make a good brand would be the brand experience, because a brand is not a logo, and a lot of people think it's just a logo.
Yes.
It's the
it's
experience.
Not the logo.
No, it's the experience you get from the actual brand itself. It's how does it make you feel? What are these emotions you get from being involved with a brand or buying into a brand? And it's that emotion that you think, I've got the connection. And that's what a brand is about. It's about all those emotions and the connections that you get from a product or whatever service that you get. But they're obviously, to make up a whole brand when we're talking about a business or product, and it's about, it is the logo as part of it, the visual side of things. So the visuals, but there's also the tone of voice, the way you speak to your customers, how are you approaching them, and, what is your customer service like? That is all part of a brand. The mission, the vision, what are you all about? And, customers are interested in what they are buying into. Are you a sustainable brand? Do you give back to donate to charities? Do you do this? And there's so many things that, a black brand has to consider. And, it's so many elements that put the things into it. And you can probably, off your top of your head, think of quite a few luxury brands or, electronic brands that are successful because you buy into it, and you know why you buy into it, because it's quality, it's how they sell themselves, it's what they believe in. And that is what, a brand is all about.
Mm-hmm. So it's not just the visual appearance, it's the story. And you help your clients also to tell the story or to create a story. I mean, not everybody has like the Apple story behind them. So how do you deal with this? How do you come up with the emotional story for a brand owner? I mean, how creative do you get, or how much do you stick to the facts of where this business actually comes from?
Yeah, so I guess it depends on what type of business it is. I mean, a lot of people create brands and they don't want to be the face of it. They really don't want to be the face of the brand, because they're creating something completely different. So you can come up with something fictitious, something maybe quite quirky and humorous, and something that you believe in. And then you just roll with that whole story. You create the story, you create the imagination, and you create that experience for the customer. It's all about the customer when it comes to brand. It's what you're going to give them and how it makes them feel. So I would say, if you have to create something good, you have to have all the things in place: the personality, the tone of voice, the vision, the mission. What is it all about? And the story will sort of envelop that whole brand experience for you. So that's how I would explain it.
And that's what you create for your customers. So you create the visual part, you create the story part, and then maybe, so the emotional connection, I think that's what it's all about, to create this connection. And does it work without a face? So if the brand owner doesn't show face, do you think it still works?
It does. It can work. It can work. I mean, but people do like to know who's behind it. If you're a small startup, why not? You've got nothing to lose, and people love a story. People were starting up from scratch, and they like that personal touch. So it's really dependent on what you want to sell. I mean, I work with owners and brand owners, and they don't want to be the face of the business. They just don't. But sometimes they will sell it personally on a personal level, their branding or whatever on the Instagram, and they'll talk about it. There's always someone that created the product, so that creates a brand and a product, and there's always a face of it. So if the newspaper or magazine wants to get in touch with somebody who created this, and you still have to be sort of accessible to some degree, but you don't have to be the face of that particular brand.
Yeah. Do you recommend to use a brand ambassador, like somebody who kind of steps in and shows face and being kind of the representative of the brand without being the business founder?
Yeah, you can find brand ambassadors, but you need to obviously you need to vet the right ones and make sure that they are the right type of ambassadors, because anyone these days you'll see on Instagram, be an ambassador for my jewelry. I get so many because I post up photos of myself wearing jewelry, and they say, I think you could be an ambassador for my jewelry brand, and so I don't want to be an ambassador for I actually sell my own jewelry, so but you have to be sort of, if you're looking for brand ambassadors, there's a cost to it as well. But you can find the right ones. And then, there's celebrities and other people, influencers and stuff. And it's just finding the right one. And if it's right for your brand as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. What do you think are the biggest mistakes people are making with branding?
I think the biggest mistake is launching something before they even thought about the whole brand story, the whole brand tone of voice. They think, like I mentioned before, that the logo is the brand, that's it. And I've got a product, I've put the logo on it, that's it, that's the brand. And there's a lot of backtracking. So there's a lot of wasted time. Your initial audience have already bought into that, and then you're going back, you have to retarget possibly a new audience if it's not working. And I think a lot of brand owners are launching their brand, not thinking about the target audience or the end result or 5 years down the line. They're thinking now, let's get it out, let's rush it. And I think the downfall is rushing anything. That if you want to take your brand seriously, don't rush.
And I agree. And I think it's one of the biggest mistakes the sellers make are to not even invest in their branding, and to just look for, I'm going to sell this thing, I'm going to sell that thing because somehow it's, there's demand for it, or I can get it cheap. To me, that is the biggest challenge in e-commerce, to actually build your community, which only is possible when you have a brand, right?
Yeah.
And only then you have people who will buy from you again. And this is when the business becomes profitable, because selling to strangers is very rarely profitable. So I think branding is a very essential part of online business success, and I think that's why your service and your knowledge and experience is really crucial to make things work in e-commerce and on Amazon and on any online brand.
Absolutely, I agree.
Business,
yeah.
Fantastic. I shall get some branding advice from you shortly, Kitty. I think you are the one. I mean, the tone of voice is the one that, I'm German, so English is my second or third language, actually, or fourth. I'm not sure. It's definitely not the first one. I think it's the third one. So, when it comes to all the nuances, how you speak and the tone of voice, I mean, this is something that I think most not native English speakers have a hard time to figure out. And I think that could be another reason to reach out to someone who really knows how to.
Yeah. And I work with a lot of American clients, and I'm trying to get the tone of voice, American like twang or whatever, the style, that tone. And it's like, sometimes I do something and that's very English. And I have to change it so it's more tailored for the American market, because there's a difference in culture.
Yeah. Very important, very insightful. So if you had to, if today, like a 20-year-old guy would come to you and say, I would like to start an online business, what would be your recommendation? What would be your best advice for someone who wants to enter into this online business space?
Well, my advice is it's going to be hard work. You've got to put the work in. It's not going to happen overnight. So if you think you're going to be a millionaire overnight, or even in a year's time, you need to think twice about the amount of work that you have to put in, and treat it as a business, not a side hustle. Your brand is serious, and then put a business plan together. Actually have a 5-year business plan and put them down. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do? Put the goals in and take it really seriously of what you're going to do. Because 20-year-olds, you're young, you want to party and go out a lot. And, I would say, really think about what you're after when you're creating a brand, because, you might be investing into it, but, 2 years down the line, you might lose the love for it. But it's going over that 2-year mark, and that's usually, it happens in 5 years, sort of. If I'm talking generally, in some brands that I know are really successful now, the first 3 years they struggled, they had to borrow money and stuff, and now I know this particular brand, they are selling millions. Their product, celebrities are wearing them, they're endorsed, they're even on TV. They struggled, but if you want to be a proper brand and business, you need to be prepared. That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is amazing advice. And I've heard this before, and I completely agree with this 5-year plan. And I think this is something very important to take note of when you start an online business, that, it takes years. And 5 years, I think, is a good ballpark number to look at before something can actually work out and flourish. And to stay put for 5 years and face, unpleasant things and all the roadblocks and all the things that go wrong. I think, that's what separates, the heroes from those who just walk away and do something else. But yeah, I think that was great advice, Kitty.
Right, thank you.
Excellent. Wow. So this was a lot of material. I think for anyone who wants to learn about branding, this podcast will give quite a few interesting insights and inspiration. Anything else you would like to share with us today before we come to the end of this podcast?
No, I would just say embrace it and get branded. Brand yourself if you're not branded, and get your products. Get a brand audit if you're not sure about where you're going with your current brand. Reach out. But I would say, I love talking about branding, so you can always reach out to me if you want to chat.
Yeah, and that is another trigger. So in the description below this video, people will find ways to connect with you, right? I mean, later yes. You will let me know what is the best way, email, your website and all that. So for those who want to get in touch, there will be a way to get in touch with Kitty. Fantastic. Thank you so much for this podcast interview, Kitty. I think you have shared a lot of very precious information and insights and experience. So it was a great honor to have you here. And I hope we can stay in touch. And I hope I can redesign my brand with your help someday.
Absolutely. It's been such a pleasure being on the show. I've had such a blast. So thank you so much.
Thank you. See you soon.